A reincarnated man appeared in a world ruled by swords and magic. As a cloaked threat lunged toward a terrified girl, a brilliant flash erupted. A white-haired youth struck with force. The girl watched, stunned. The attacker fell, defeated. The young man remained calm, uncertain of the situation. Despite his vow to stay unnoticed, he stood firm. Protecting her was his instinct. Unknowingly, he had entered the very world of the game he once played. Within the Academy game world, danger lurked as magic beasts emerged without warning. Opportunities ranged from casual lunches to deep connections, offering endless branching paths. Yet, no matter the choices made, one obstacle always surfaced: an elitist noble named Alba. Alba was ruthless, prideful, and cruel, fated to be the antagonist in every scenario. To escape his interference, retreating to the mountains became the only path to peace. He stepped out of his cabin, stretching beneath the bright mountain sun. Life now belonged to Alba Arecia, the notorious duke's son, who was enjoying quiet days far from nobility. Alba farmed, wandered the forests, and lived peacefully among nature's rhythm. 3 years had already passed since his reincarnation into this feared character. Back then, he awoke confused in a mansion, unaware he had entered a game he once knew. At its heart lay a royal academy, where one figure always blocked the player's path: Alba Arecia, infamous. In every rout, Alba would seize heroines with twisted charm and force. Sometimes, he posed as a rival, outmaneuvering the protagonist and claiming the spotlight for himself. In darker paths, he embraced corruption, unleashing chaos as the Academy's ultimate destroyer. Regardless of the choices made, Alba always returned, whether as tyrant, conqueror. Though his memory of the game was incomplete, one truth remained: Alba was destined to be the ultimate villain. Realizing his new identity, panic surged. He had reincarnated as Alba, the most hated character. There was no happy ending for Alba. Every route ensured his death. No matter the choices, his demise was inevitable: executed as punishment, or slain in battle. Overwhelmed and furious, he refused to accept such a fate without a fight. Then Alba knew he had to take control of his fate before it was too late. Under the cover of night, he vanished from the mansion. With a bag full of valuables, he fled the noble life, determined to break free from the destiny set before him. 3 years later, he lived quietly in the mountains. His appearance changed, his days filled with labor, but his heart still burning, though peace had found him for now. The world hadn't forgotten. Celia Margaret cheerfully entered the cabin, her greeting warm and familiar. Alba, now a humble mountain dweller, brushed off her words with humor. Though he recognized her as one of the game's love interests, she responded with playful protest, and his laughter followed without hesitation. Moments later, he gently apologized, patting her head as she pouted. Though Alba knew better, a part of him still enjoyed the comfort she brought. Alba couldn't ignore the risk. Celia, though kind, was still tied to the very fate he wanted to escape. Celia served as a saint in the world's religion, gifted, divine, and feared for her power to foresee disaster. Their connection had started only half a year ago, but the consequences lingered in his mind. While tending crops, Alba found comfort in the familiarity of the game world's farming system. Villagers believed Alba Arecia had died, and he had no intention of proving them wrong. Alba reflected grimly: his family's silence about his death likely meant they were glad to be rid of him. While stretching in the yard, a distant scream cut through the peaceful air, jolting him to alertness. A guard shouted desperately for the saintess to flee. Masked assailants advanced as bodies fell around her. The saintess stood frozen, terror in her eyes, trapped and surrounded. She trembled. Recognition struck: these were no ordinary attackers. The attackers closed in, blades drawn. The saintess stood paralyzed, helpless against the approaching threat. Suddenly, a flash tore through the forest. An explosive strike knocked the nearest enemy back. Even as chaos unfolded, Alba himself seemed uncertain, arriving with no real plan in mind. Still, he stood tall, brushing his hair aside, as the saintess looked at him in shock. With calm defiance, he faced the masked men, and simply stated they shouldn't make girls cry. Recognition flickered between them. The saintess paused, confused, while Alba tensed under her gaze. A haunting memory surged forward. This girl was tied to one of the game's heroines, someone Alba once doomed. He had hidden in the mountains to avoid these connections, yet fate had caught up. As more enemies charged, Alba realized destiny hadn't forgotten. They were being targeted again, and this time, there was no escape. With a resigned smirk, he unleashed power to protect them both. Alba had trained every day since his retreat, learning to harness the magic of this world. Despite knowing it was a game, the bloodshed felt painfully real. Yet he stood firm. If death was coming, he would meet it fighting, not running, turning to the saintess. He asked if she was unharmed, though her silence said enough, gazing at the fallen. He apologized sincerely. He couldn't save her companions, but he had saved her. Her voice shook as she confessed she couldn't take it anymore. Years of pressure surfaced, endless travel, constant danger, and the burden of being hunted wherever she went. Despite her high status, enemies viewed her as a tool, a threat, or a prize to be stolen. To Alba, this no longer felt like a scripted game. Her tears weren't part of a storyline. They were the cry of a girl who had lost her sense of safety. After witnessing her breakdown, Alba gently approached and placed a hand on her head, grounding her in silence. With a soft smile, he reached out and asked if she'd like to come to his home. The saintess blinked in surprise, her tearful expression giving way to confusion and warmth. He quickly tried to clarify, realizing he'd spoken before thinking. Fumbling over his words, she was someone real, someone who had truly suffered, and maybe, she deserved a place to rest. He realized, she wasn't just a game character, she was someone struggling. He remembered his own escape, the night he chose to run from a fate he didn't ask for. Now, standing before her, he understood she longed for the same freedom from expectations and despair. So he offered his hand. If she had nowhere to go, she could run with him. Though every instinct warned him not to get involved, her trembling voice and tearful plea pushed those doubts aside. Alba found himself wishing to see Celia smile again genuinely, without fear or sadness in her eyes. 6 months later, his wish had come true. She beamed with joy, her face brighter than ever. She had just received a letter from her father, the Pope. Without warning, she embraced him and quietly asked if he would stay by her side. He had saved her once and now, he would stay, no matter what came next. Celia beamed with joy, hugging Alba tightly and waving a pamphlet in excitement. The paper revealed their next destination, Kriana Academy, the main setting of the game world. To Alba, it looked less like a school and more like a minefield of death flags. She believed this school held her chance at a normal life. He had sworn to avoid it. Yet, her smile made it hard to say no. Alba smiled, conflicted yet calm, realizing the path ahead could no longer be avoided. Despite his hesitation, Celia's wish pulled him forward. The quiet life ended. His stage was set, once again. Kriana Academy stood tall as the center of a fantasy world designed for nobles. Among its key figures was Alba Aretia, a notorious villain fated to die regardless of the path taken. After being reincarnated as Alba, he secluded himself deep in the mountains to escape that destiny. Despite efforts to avoid the academy, events gradually pulled him closer to its towering gates. Ultimately, he arrived at Kriana Academy, greeted by Celia, unable to resist the story's pull. Inside the carriage, Alba appeared unwell, quietly enduring the nausea of travel beside Celia. She kindly offered her lap, unaware of the hidden tension behind his polite decline. Unbeknownst to her, their arrival at the academy marked the start of several danger points tied to the game's plot. Celia, with her gentle concern, was one of the central figures tied to his downfall. Despite knowing the risk, Alba still traveled with her, questioning his own decision. Celia handed Alba a letter from her father, unexpectedly addressed to him. Her father, a powerful religious leader, rivaled even the king in influence. Alba feared condemnation, imagining divine wrath for harboring the man's daughter. Both he and Celia waited silently, unsure of what the message would reveal. To his relief, the letter contained only sincere apologies and heartfelt thanks. Outside, the quiet cabin, Alba stood still, reading the message that revealed Celia's divine lineage. Declared a saint by birth, Celia was bound by fate to serve the teachings of the goddess. Even from a young age, she traveled to visit faithful believers throughout the land. Dangerous roads and difficult terrain never stopped her sacred mission. Through every trial, she offered comfort and light to those who had lost hope. Celia fulfilled her sacred duties with unwavering resolve, never once voicing a complaint to her father. Only later did he realize her smile had masked silent suffering behind her calm exterior. Celia longed for an ordinary life, silently begging for rescue from the weight of sainthood. In her lowest moment, Alba reached out, offering her a place of safety and peace. Though she remained a saint, and he a mere outcast, her father expressed deep gratitude. Celia's father, once proud and firm, humbly expressed his wish for her to live a normal life. Alba responded gently, promising not to laugh at the sincerity behind those words. Surprised by emotion, Alba struggled to speak as Celia beamed, praising her father's kindness. A request soon followed to accompany Celia to Kriana Academy. With that decision, a new chapter awaited them at the kingdom's most prestigious academy. Celia's father expressed his hope for Alba to stay by her side, recognizing the strength he once displayed. Alba believed Celia also wished the same. Though she hadn't voiced it aloud, she gently reassured Alba, telling him it was fine, though uncertainty lingered in her voice. Behind her smile, Alba sensed a hidden desire she was trying to conceal, rather than agree outright. He warned her how dangerous the academy truly was. Warnings about dangerous men and academy life spilled from Alba's mouth, trying to make her reconsider. Eyes wide with surprise, she called out to him, touched by his concern. Rather than hesitate, she expressed hope of making friends and enjoying the experience. Though he argued about boring studies, her curiosity for new learning shone through. She welcomed the unknown, thrilled by the idea of adventure and change. Side by side, they smiled with shared resolve, choosing to face what lies ahead together. Logic insisted he should avoid the academy and its dangers, but his heart chose otherwise. Seeing her radiant expression, he knew that joy suited her far more than sorrow. Conviction grew in his eyes as he embraced his reckless decision with a firm heart. While she offered prayers of thanks, he grumbled, half joking, about walking into divine doom. A sudden thought crossed his mind, perhaps his arrival in this world wasn't by chance. The letter's final words struck him: never make her cry, or face a father's wrath. Eventually, both set foot on academy grounds, surrounded by unfamiliar faces and new paths. Awestruck by the towering structure, they could hardly contain their excitement. No image or memory could match the overwhelming grandeur standing before them in real life. Lined across the academy grounds were grand statues of a hero, goddess, and unicorn guardian. Celia admired them with wonder, while Alba tried to recall their connection to the game's plot. To stay safe, he reminded her to call him Al during their time at school. Using a false identity as a knight apprentice, he aimed to dodge the fatal flags ahead, surrounded by peers. He laughed nervously as Celia teased him, masking the truth behind his past. Thoughts of danger circled his mind, especially with his blurred memory of the game's key moments. Before long, whispers spread around them. Everyone began recognizing Celia as the true saintess. Caught off guard, both froze under the growing attention from nearby students. Cheers erupted, surrounding them in a crowd eager to touch, talk, and befriend her. The overwhelming praise pushed her to tears as voices called her name again and again. Tears welled up, as she longed for nothing more than a normal, quiet life. Suddenly, a loud shock scattered the crowd, stunned faces frozen in awe and confusion. Without hesitation, he lifted her in his arms, declaring her presence was as a student, not a saint. His voice rose firm. He vowed to protect her, even if it cost him everything. Onlookers could only stare as the pair walked away, leaving behind a stunned silence. All walked beside Celia, exchanging light words, while onlookers misjudged his noble status. From a distance, a figure paused, recognizing something familiar in the pair ahead. Eyes widened in shock. An old acquaintance realized Alba was still alive and nearby. Celia eagerly led the way to the academy, her excitement shining as she called for Alba to follow. Alba stood before the grand entrance, overwhelmed by the memories of a foretold doom awaiting him at this place. Sensing his hesitation, Celia gently grasped his hand, reassuring him with calm resolve. Her bright smile and unwavering support reminded him he wasn't alone anymore. Alba silently vowed to protect her, despite his earlier fear and doubt. Expressed his gratitude, feeling more composed, thanks to Celia's calming presence. They walked together through the academy's elegant corridors, the grandeur reflecting its long-standing legacy. Standing before a sacred stained glass mural, Celia offered a silent prayer, hoping to remain close to him. Later, the staff member handed them uniforms and confirmed they were assigned to the same class. Their shared joy filled the room as they celebrated being placed together. After receiving their uniforms, Alba and Celia chatted casually while heading outside the academy. Celia suddenly shouted Alba's name aloud, prompting him to remind her of his alias, Al. Before they could move on, a stern woman appeared, questioning Alba's identity despite his disguise. The sight of her vivid red hair triggered memories buried deep within Alba's mind. She was Elena, his childhood friend, a destined heroine, and once his fiancée known as a key to Alba's downfall. Her presence sparked tension. Celia quickly stepped forward, introducing Alba as her knight apprentice and denying any mistaken identity. Elena wasn't convinced, calling out the simplicity of Alba's disguise, merely dropping part of his name. Frustrated, Celia defended him, while Alba awkwardly tried to stay composed, amid the misunderstanding and emotional swirl. Elena, unfazed, revealed she had spread the rumor of his death after he vanished, intensifying the awkward reunion. Without warning, Elena launched a fierce attack, blades clashing as Alba blocked her sudden strike. Her voice was cold and threatening, warning him to stop pretending or face her full wrath. Shocked by her intensity, Alba realized she wasn't bluffing. Her eyes were filled with deadly resolve. As Celia shouted in confusion, Elena demanded his identity once again, with memories of his vow echoing within. He braced to face whatever destiny awaited him, no longer willing to run. Alba responded with firm resolve, stating once more that he was now Al, standing by his new identity. Elena smiled coldly and accepted his words, but promised he'd feel the weight of his deception physically. In a blur of speed, she struck, delivering a punishing blow that sent Alba reeling with a cry. Remembered she was renowned in the game as its deadliest swordswoman. This wasn't a joke. Her piercing gaze showed no hesitation, only sharpened conviction, making it clear she wasn't done yet. Just as Elena's blade came crashing down, Alba instinctively called her name, eyes wide in alarm. A heartbeat later, he vanished from her sight, leaving her strike to slash only empty air. Elena spun, tracking his sudden movement, but Alba had already appeared behind her. In a split-second counter, he caught her blade mid-swing, holding it firmly against his shoulder. Elena froze in disbelief. Her attack had been completely stopped by the very one she'd aimed to punish. Calmly gripping the blade, Alba revealed the hidden force behind his strength magic power. He recalled the basics of elemental affinity from a book. Memories surfaced of his game days, when exploiting enemy weaknesses was key to victory. Closing his eyes, Alba concentrated. A strange sensation welled up as he reached deep within to find his element. Through years of focused meditation and endless training, Alba finally awakened to his true attribute, lightning. Alba stood in solitude, channeling his strength to transform every part of his being. A surge of lightning erupted, reducing the rock before him to scorched debris. With mastery over lightning, he now possessed the power to defy the death flag written in fate. Returning to the academy, he stopped Elena's sword and urged her to listen. With honesty in his voice, he apologized, embracing his identity as Al, no longer just Alba. Overwhelmed by conflicting emotions, Elena screamed and slammed her blade into the ground, energy bursting out. Gasps rose from the crowd as both Alba and the saintess vanished, without a trace. Left alone, Elena could only watch in silence as the bystanders looked on in disbelief. When asked if she was all right, she hid her shaken heart. Meanwhile, Alba and Celia regrouped in town, laughing nervously though. Her puffed cheeks revealed she wasn't entirely amused. Alba gently asked if Celia was upset, but she only pouted, questioning who Elena even was. Trying to mask her jealousy, Celia insisted she wasn't bothered, despite clearly listing Elena's charms. Alba laughed warmly, teasing her with a smile, calling out her obvious lie. Celia bargained to be carried all the way, and Alba obliged without hesitation. As they walked, Alba realized life at Kriana Academy was going to be anything but peaceful. Alba and Celia arrive at a large house in the royal capital. Pausing before its tall gate, amazed by its size, they compare it to their small mountain cabin, surprised by the luxury. Celia excitedly points out the vegetable garden, thrilled they can continue growing food like before. From above, the house stands out spacious, private, and clearly expensive. Inside, Celia explores eagerly while Alba carries their belongings into their new life. Alba sat on the bed, quietly pleased with the comfort of their new home. When asked about money, Celia responded with a blank stare. She hadn't received any. At the dining table, she explained her father's words: if she wanted a normal life, she had to earn it. Alba worried about their finances and insisted he would look for work. Smiling confidently, Celia declared she would support them both. Celia explained that her father had arranged for her to work at the church in the capital. She would serve as a saintess, a role blessed by the goddess and supported through donations. Despite the hardships she endured, her decision stemmed from a desire to help others. However, suspected a hidden motive behind the church's reliance on her presence. Seeing her smile, he pushed away his doubts and said nothing. Alba insisted on working too, unable to sit back while Celia handled everything alone. He brushed off her efforts as misplaced and told her to save that care for someone she'd eventually marry. Crushed by his words, Celia tried to hold back her emotions, but her smile faded. She stormed off, saying she'd eat alone, leaving Alba stunned by her sudden anger. Lying on his bed, Alba tried to justify his words, but doubt crept in. Yuris, the true protagonist of the game world, stood as the ideal hero, handsome, noble, and adored by all heroines. Meanwhile, Alba reflected on the past 3 months, convincing himself that he had no place in Celia's future. Despite that, in the quiet countryside, he welcomed Celia warmly. Together, They found joy in the simplicity of harvesting vegetables, under the open sky. Even mundane tasks like cooking and using unfamiliar baths became shared moments of laughter and learning. Under a star-filled sky, Celia marveled at the peaceful beauty surrounding them. She danced among the flowers, feeling truly relaxed for the first time in her life. With a radiant smile, she called out to Alba, her joy undeniable. Alba, lying alone, told himself he'd accept her departure, but admitted he would miss her deeply. Later, Celia knocked softly, her eyes apologetic, asking for forgiveness with quiet sincerity. Alba rested quietly in bed, unaware of the presence beside him. Softly, Celia whispered his name, her voice filled with quiet gratitude. She gently leaned over and thanked him, believing she wouldn't be where she was without his support. As the morning sun rose, Alba awoke to a peaceful room and birdsong outside the window. Still groggy, he sat up slowly, puzzled at when he had even fallen asleep. Alba discovered a packed meal and a heartfelt note from Celia, apologizing and heading off to the church. Gratefully, he enjoyed the food, savoring the familiarity of a hamburger in this strange world. Realizing she was already working, he jumped up with renewed resolve to find his own job. His destination was the towering structure of the Adventurers Guild. There, countless missions awaited, ranging from simple tasks to dangerous battles with magic beasts. The Adventurers Guild was filled with hardened fighters, those who sought riches or fame through danger. Alba noted that while adventuring wasn't required in the original game, it was now the fastest way to earn money. A high-paying quest to slay a massive magic beast caught his attention. Though inexperienced, he felt confident in the strength he had gained over the years. His confidence wavered, however, when veterans laughed, pointing out he wasn't qualified for such a high-level quest. The guild's adventurer system was built around star ranks, earned through completed quests and contributions. Without increasing that rank, high-paying, dangerous missions remained out of reach. Alba was welcomed at the beginner-level reception, designated for new adventurers. He registered with determination, fully aware he had to start from the bottom. With a low-star request in hand, Alba prepared to begin his first official quest, assigned to a beginner herb collection quest. Alba accepted the low reward without complaint, knowing he had to start small. Unable to afford a carriage, he prepared to run the distance on foot. In a flash, his sudden burst of speed startled nearby townspeople as he zoomed past. He sprinted like lightning, confident in his incredible physical strength. Elsewhere, students chatted casually about rent and the burdens of dorm life in the capital. While two students discussed their fortune of attending Kriana Academy, something unexpected stirred the air. A powerful gust swept past them, disrupting the calm street with a sudden burst of wind. One girl stumbled in surprise, unsure of what had just happened, while her friend called it incredible. As they gathered themselves, she turned toward a familiar figure, Yuris, with a casual smile. He dismissed her concern and urged Alice to keep moving. Alice continued shopping while Yuris walked beside her, both unaware of the approaching presence. Alba arrived nearby, sensing a familiar aura that made him freeze in place. Their paths finally crossed. Alba and Yuris faced each other in silence. A hand grasped a cluster of rare herbs nestled among jagged cliffs and dense greenery. The boy knelt triumphantly, his bag full, completing the herb-gathering quest with ease and a cheerful grin. Life in the remote mountains for 3 years had sharpened his instincts and strength. Back at the guild, he handed over the herbs, surprising the staff with his swift return. They questioned the impossible speed, but he casually claimed he just ran fast, earning his reward without hesitation. Alba reviewed his modest earnings from the herb quest. Meanwhile, Celia addressed a massive crowd, delivering a divine prayer that stirred awe among her followers. Her presence alone inspired joy, and in the same time span, she earned over 10 times more than Alba. Elsewhere, Alba treated himself to ramen, fascinated by the city's comforts. Reflecting on his past, he acknowledged his family in the capital remained distant strangers after he ran away. While finishing his meal, Alba reflected on how his family never bothered to correct the rumors of his death. He knew the capital held people like Elena who recognized him, a risk he hadn't faced in the mountains. Remaining vigilant was crucial. One careless step could trigger a death flag he couldn't foresee. Suddenly, a runaway horse tore through the street, causing chaos among the startled crowd. A young girl froze in fear, unable to move as the beast charged directly toward her. The girl stood frozen as the raging horse barreled toward her with unstoppable force. In the next instant, a brilliant blue flash surged between them, halting the beast's charge. She looked up in shock, only to find herself unharmed. A voice calmly asked if she was all right. Alba stood over the subdued horse, the crowd staring in disbelief at the outcome. Relieved, the girl nodded as Alba smiled, ensuring she hadn't suffered even a scratch. Alba gently apologized to the horse, while the girl expressed her gratitude, still shaken from the close call. Her gaze lingered as she asked about his face, making Alba panic at the possibility of recognition. Cheers erupted from the surrounding crowd, drawing more attention than he wanted. Though reluctant, he had acted instinctively, unable to ignore someone in danger. As a night approached, Alba feared his identity might soon be exposed. A commanding knight arrived flanked by guards, radiating authority as the crowd fell silent. Recognizing him instantly, the girl called out his name, Duke Roy Eretia, startling Alba. She introduced herself formally, recalling their brief meeting at a past ceremony, while she explained Alba's heroic act. He grew uneasy at the mention of the Eretia name. Roy smiled, offering gratitude, but Alba now suspected he was face to face with his older brother. Alba stood stiffly, mind racing. He couldn't afford to let the Duke discover his true identity, questioned Alba's silence, prompting awkward tension between the three of them. With a forced smile, Alba politely brushed off the thanks and tried to take his leave. But as he turned, Roy called out, recognizing a familiar presence in the voice. Alba froze, heart pounding. As Roy mentioned his resemblance to a foolish younger brother, he deflected Roy's request, insisting his face wasn't worthy of a duke's attention. The sharp reply came quickly. Roy wasn't asking for permission, he demanded to see it himself. A piercing glare forced Alba to freeze, the command to look ringing louder than expected. Before Alba could respond, another voice cut in, addressing him by a familiar nickname. Recognition dawned across their faces, as surprise and realization collided all at once. Elena Persia made a confident entrance, greeting Roy with commanding presence. From Alba's perspective, her arrival spelled disaster, as panic surged through him. He felt cornered. Elena ahead, Roy behind, both capable of uncovering his true identity. Roy questioned Elena, who responded without hesitation, identifying Alba as a squire named Al. To his surprise, Elena covered for him, casually explaining his lateness like a trusted companion. Roy cast a suspicious glance at Elena, demanding an explanation for her claim. Feigning confidence, she insisted the man was named Al, not Alba. With a calm smile, Elena reminded them she had once been Alba's fiancée. Surely she wouldn't mistake him. Caught between their scrutinizing eyes, Alba stood frozen, silently praying they'd stop digging deeper. Masking his doubt, apologized. Alba forced a smile, brushing it off, though his heart sank at hearing himself dismissed as a disgraced brother no longer worth remembering, with Alba believed to be long dead. Roy turned his attention to Mina, offering her a noble escort home. Before departing, Mina expressed her gratitude to Al, her eyes bright with respect. As the group walked away, Alba and Elena stood behind in silence, watching the knights disappear into the crowd. Their gazes met, no words spoken, yet understanding passed quietly between them. Her quick thinking had protected his identity and spared him from danger. Alba tried to retreat quietly, relieved that his identity had survived the chaos undiscovered, or so he thought. Before he could vanish, a sharp voice stopped him in his tracks. A blade flashed past his cheek. Elena stood firm, her sword drawn, calling him by name without hesitation. She warned him not to feign ignorance again, or she'd reveal his identity herself. Cornered, Alba surrendered with a sigh, admitting defeat before school had even begun. Life in the capital moved forward. While Mina prayed, others played and argued, unaware of the secrets unfolding nearby. Alba continued his journey, pursued by faces tied to fate. A new term began at Kriana Academy, where students from across the realm gathered in bright uniforms. The eccentric principal welcomed them with fervent energy, declaring their futures blessed by fate and divine guidance. Among the students, Alba and Celia stepped forward. As Alba looked around, unease crept in. This was where danger would truly begin. 5 potential paths awaited, each tied to a heroine and each linked to Alba's eventual doom. Alba realized he was already entangled in both Celia's and Elena's storylines, increasing his risks. Fortunately, the princess heroine was a hidden character, unlikely to appear during his time at the academy. Lily, the sage's disciple, and Alice, the protagonist's childhood friend, were in his grade, demanding caution. A sudden shift in the crowd caught Alba's attention. Someone crucial had arrived. Standing confidently was Yuris, the game's true protagonist, and Alba's biggest threat. In most scenarios, the villain never escapes fate, always falling before the hero's hand. Staring one another down, Yuris and Alba sensed the tension of predetermined roles. Fear gripped Alba as he vowed to avoid Yuris at all costs, determined to survive. With quiet resolve, he made a firm decision to never stand out within the academy walls. Assigned to the unicorn dorm, Alba prepared to fade into the background. Alba slouched in his seat, aware of every glance thrown their way. Celia's presence drew a crowd. Whispers filled the room, marveling at the saintess and questioning her unexpected appearance at the academy. Celia introduced herself cheerfully, but Alba knew her wish for an ordinary school life was slipping away. With a radiant smile, she declared herself just another first year in the unicorn class. Despite her request to be treated as an equal, the students couldn't hide their awe. Celia's charm spread like wildfire, effortlessly winning over every student in the room. But murmurs of recognition stirred. Some students sensed something oddly familiar about Alba. Tension thickened as whispers grew. Alba sat surrounded, dreading the rising suspicion. Though disguised, he feared the noble students might uncover his true identity. Despite his protests, Celia introduced him warmly, calling for acceptance of her awkward but kind friend. Thanks to Celia's influence, the class welcomed Alba without hesitation, surprising even him. Polite greetings continued, and one familiar voice reached Alba. Elena. Elena confirmed she was also in the unicorn class, her tone calm but sharp. Admiration for her beauty and strength filled the room, while Alba quietly admitted the truth. Behind his unease, he knew she recognized him. Her former fiancé, not just a student named Celia, was shocked to learn that Alba and Elena had once been engaged. Unable to hide her surprise, Alba couldn't believe fate had brought him face to face with his former fiancé after years apart. He confirmed he had left his old life behind, choosing to escape his past and start anew. Explaining death flags or reincarnation seemed pointless. She would never understand the danger he carried. Elena revealed the engagement was broken off without reason, while rumors of his death had spread wildly. Alba joked about their mutual hatred, while Elena revealed her family had been relieved the engagement ended. She listed his past flaws bluntly, admitting she had once considered ending his life herself. But the thought of his death had moved her unexpectedly. She confessed. She had cried. Memories of childhood returned, when her father rejected her for being unladylike and too strong. Back then, Alba had comforted her with simple words, accepting her as she was. Elena. A quiet confession slipped out. There was never any hatred back then. Those words stirred uncertainty, hinting at a past untold by the game's original narrative. Saving someone in danger and standing beside the saintess painted a different image than expected. Support came without hesitation, a promise to guard the secret from the academy's scrutiny. Gratitude shone in his smile as trust formed silently between them. A condition was set: help in exchange for managing the suitors flocking since the broken engagement. That agreement resurfaced later, confirmed with a casual gesture between two familiar faces. Confusion swirled in Celia's mind, overwhelmed by talk of promises and former relationships. Her curiosity burst forth, demanding clarity from the one person who could explain. Formality melted as both girls agreed to speak freely, recognizing each other as equals. Polite greetings turned into admiration as classmates praised both Celia's cuteness and Elena's charm. An attempt at teasing was met with suspicion as Celia questioned the shared secret between her friends. Interrupting the moment, a sharp voice challenged Alba's position, mocking his proximity to two admired girls. Confused and unimpressed, Alba asked who the stranger was, triggering a harsh insult in return. Recognition followed. Elena calmly explained that the arrogant intruder was Walby, Count Walgott's eldest son. Walby's flirtation continued shamelessly, much to everyone's discomfort. Confidence oozed from every word as he made bold marriage claims, treating the academy like a proposal ground. He insisted any noble would be honored to marry Elena, certain his own lineage was more than enough. Talk of alliances and benefits filled the air, pushing personal feelings aside. He rejected the noble's approach outright, not for Elena's sake, but because he despised entitled men like him. Alba confronted Walby, stating he never understood Elena's true value as a person. Celia and the others reacted with surprise and support, impressed by Alba's sincerity. Walby, enraged, threw down a handkerchief and challenged him in front of the class. The gesture signaled a formal duel, leaving Alba completely stunned and cornered. A loud declaration shakes the classroom as a duel is announced between two students. Alba, confused by the sudden commotion, stands at the center as encouragement and tension build around him. The Academy's rules clarify that duels are allowed if they defend one's honor, provided they don't lead to death. To begin, a special handkerchief must be offered and accepted to formalize the challenge. All duels must take place inside the Academy's designated arena, under official supervision. Kate Sith, the official witness cat, cheerfully introduces himself to oversee the duel. The crowd gathers as Aru and Warubi face each other in the dueling arena, tension rising. Onlookers react with admiration and concern, impressed that Aru accepted the challenge without hesitation. Overwhelmed, Aru silently panics, unaware of the Academy's complex dueling rules. Before the fight begins, both duelists are ordered to state the pride or cause they are defending. According to the original game, the duel system was merely a side mechanic, never linked to Alba's fatal endings. Driven by pride, Warubi taunts Alba with a harsh ultimatum involving Elena, escalating the tension. Instead of backing down, Alba agrees to the duel, convinced it won't trigger any doom. He boldly sets his terms, demanding Warubi keep his distance if defeated. With both sides sworn in, the duel officially commences under Kate Sith's watch. Cheers erupt from the crowd as Aru and Warubi square off, standing ready in the center of the arena. Among the spectators, Elena explains that Warubi is renowned for his overwhelming fire, magic prowess. With a wicked grin, Warubi begins a fierce incantation, summoning devastating flames with malicious intent. Kate Sith quickly identifies the chant as a powerful fire spell, leaving Aru visibly concerned. Without hesitation, Warubi unleashes his spell, launching the searing hell flame directly at his opponent. A massive explosion erupts across the arena, as Warubi's fire spell detonates with overwhelming force. Spectators watch in shock, some screaming Alba's name, fearing he's been consumed by the blast. Warubi boasts about Alba's defeat, laughing arrogantly and questioning if a fatal outcome even matters. Kate Sith remains still, calmly remarking that intervention isn't necessary just yet. From the smoke, Alba reappears unscathed, leaving Warubi stunned by his unexpected survival. Warubi reels in disbelief as Alba appears behind him, having closed the distance in a blink. Observers are stunned as Alba effortlessly dodges attacks, and even intercepts a blade mid-swing. One girl calmly analyzes his technique, revealing that Alba became lightning itself rather than casting it. The crowd murmurs in awe, realizing he bypassed standard magic through sheer mastery of transformation. To her, Alba's ability rivals even the legendary sage, a feat nearly unimaginable. Lily, a heroine and the sage's disciple, quietly vows to never lose, her determination unwavering. Charging once more, Warubi prepares the same fiery spell, intent on overwhelming Alba this time. Alba calmly warns him mid-cast, pointing out the flaw and opening left by that chant. As the flames surge forward, Alba remains still, analyzing and waiting for the perfect moment. Without hesitation, he counters instantly, launching Warubi skyward with a powerful lightning-charged blow. Warubi is hurled through the air, landing hard outside the arena, overwhelmed by Alba's magic. Kate Sith declares the match over, announcing Alba as the victor, while Alba questions his own force. Cheers erupt from the audience as medic Cat Kate Nurse rushes in to treat the fallen duelist. Spectators marvel at Alba's chantless casting, calling it unbelievable and extraordinary among the crowd. Yuris and Alice acknowledge the display, glad they came to witness the duel. Spectators are stunned as they realize Alba's victory wasn't due to brute force, but precision. Rather than striking Warubi, Alba had only extended his arm without making physical contact. At such intense speed, the motion alone created a shockwave strong enough to send Warubi flying. Kate Sith confirms the technique's insane difficulty, leaving Alice in disbelief at Alba's power. Despite Alba's feat, Alice hints others might possess equally terrifying potential within the Academy. Yuris observes the entire duel, analyzing every detail with sharp, confident eyes. Alice questions whether Yuris could defeat Alba, pointing out his ability to track movements. Though dismissive at first, Yuris admits he'd only fight if someone dear to him were harmed. With a quiet intensity, he declares that he wouldn't lose, should that moment ever come. Meanwhile, Alba receives a warm welcome from his friends, unaware of Yuris's silent resolve. Elena and her friend praise Alba's strength, impressed by the unexpected display of power. Alba reveals that his abilities were honed during isolated mountain training, away from prying eyes. A narrator reflects on the game's mechanics, recalling that Alba could have become the final boss with enough effort. With proper growth, his potential surpasses even the protagonists, elevating him to unmatched levels. Recognizing this truth, Alba reaffirms his strength, while someone silently celebrates their belief in him. Alba confidently explains his change, declaring himself reborn after embracing effort and discipline. When Celia questions his past, Elena bluntly recalls Alba's former self as the worst kind of person. Despite that, Celia smiles, declaring Alba now the most wonderful person in her eyes. He huckles at his own excess, while Celia defends his actions in Elena's name. Elena, ever calm, reassures them she can heal anyone Alba roughs up if needed. She thanks Alba sincerely for stepping in and fighting the duel on her behalf. With a confident smile, Alba reminds her of the promise he made to protect her no matter what. Hearing those words, Elena quietly acknowledges the bond they now share. Kate Sith assures him the duel didn't trigger any death flags, or so Alba thought. Unseen by him, destiny begins to shift quietly, setting new events into motion. New contenders begin appearing across the academy, one after another, drawing attention from every key figure. Alba slept soundly while the sun rose over the peaceful town. Celia cheerfully called out, announcing breakfast. Still unresponsive, Alba was met with an unorthodox wake-up method, as Celia jumped on top of him, forcing him awake. At the table, Alba admired the meal, noting how much Celia's cooking had improved through mountain practice. They enjoyed breakfast together, and Alba offered to cook dinner next. Before he left, Celia handed Alba his lunchbox. Holding the lunchbox in his hand, Alba paused, momentarily distracted by an old memory. They left together, walking side by side through the lively streets, discussing their differing views on academy life. At the grand gates of Kriana Academy, they were greeted warmly by classmates as morning classes began. Despite his boredom, Alba admitted life at school had become strangely calm. Since that first duel, no ominous signs had emerged. During class, Celia stayed focused while Elena impressed the teacher. Al, however, remained distracted and inattentive. Walking the halls, he noticed the other students avoided him. His power during the duel had clearly left a strong impression. Although his isolation kept him safe from trouble, the quiet distance made him feel strangely alone. As classmates gathered for lunch, Celia realized Al was missing again. Away from the crowd, Al napped peacefully, already having finished his lunch early. In the game's logic, sharing lunch with a heroine was a key to deepening bonds, raising favorability through simple acts. Alba, however, remained cautious. Lying beneath a tree, he chose isolation, hoping to avoid any flags that could seal his fate. His nap was interrupted by a girl asking to join him for lunch, leaving him startled. She smiled gently, expressing thanks for a past favor. To his surprise, it was the girl he'd once saved, now holding a lunch just for him. With sincere eyes, the girl offered Alba a handmade bento to express her gratitude. Caught off guard, he froze, realizing he was in the middle of another possible lunch event. As she stood quietly, he stared, unsure who she even was. Running through the heroines in his mind, he realized she didn't match any of them. That meant one thing: she wasn't a main heroine, but a side character instead. Alba smiled and accepted the bento, thanking Mina with genuine warmth for her thoughtful gesture. He reassured himself there was no harm in enjoying it, and gladly opened the box, impressed by its neat presentation. Under a shady tree, he ate with enthusiasm while Mina beamed with joy at his compliments. She agreed to drop formalities, calling him simply Al as they grew more comfortable. Still, he hesitated, concerned that being close to him might isolate her too. Mina smiled brightly, declaring that her decision to stay by Alba's side wasn't influenced by anyone's opinion. As they laughed together, Alba realized she was surprisingly bold and sincere, unlike any character he'd known. Inspired by her spirit, he promised to support her however he could. Their moment was interrupted by a familiar voice approaching with sarcasm. Celia appeared, furious that Alba had refused her lunch yet accepted another girl's instead. Alba panicked, quickly clarifying that the situation was a misunderstanding. Both girls exchanged a glance, Celia stern and silent, Mina calm yet unreadable, while Alba stood between them. As Mina walked away, she muttered something under her breath, identifying Celia as the saintess. Alba explained Mina's background and how they first met during a past incident in town, realizing she might be more involved than expected. Alba acknowledged that the next event was about to begin. The headmaster announced Kriana Academy's first major in-game event, a field trip designed to strengthen bonds between students. Participants would battle magic beasts and gather herbs, offering a hands-on tutorial in Neapi Forest. Though the creatures were weak, the event's significance made it a major turning point. Depending on choices made, relationships could deepen, or death flags could be triggered. With excitement and tension rising, the students marched toward Neapi Forest together. Celia admitted her nerves about facing magic beasts, but Alba reassured her, reminding her they weren't alone. Towering cliffs loomed ahead as the class entered Neapi Forest, the true stage for the upcoming trial. Elena confidently stepped forward, easing everyone's tension with her strong presence. Even the teacher radiated bravado, encouraging the students to stay close and rely on his protection. But Alba knew better soon. The teacher would face a moment where confidence alone wouldn't be enough. One option was to assist Celia in healing injured students, a path filled with compassion and heart-pounding moments. Another route led to Elena's side, where direct combat would forge strength through real battles. Alternatively, joining the energetic heroine meant diving deeper into danger to rescue the childhood friend Alice. The fourth path remained unclear, tied to a girl who found everything boring. Among these four choices, Alba had to decide his next move carefully. Alba considered his options carefully, knowing the protagonist's appearance meant critical decisions lay ahead. The other students split into groups. Elena took charge of the fighters, while Celia led those gathering herbs. Meanwhile, the remaining heroines followed their own roles, blending into the forest's rhythm as the event progressed. Their teacher urged caution as they approached the magical beast habitat. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. Something about the area felt disturbingly off. A rustling in the underbrush triggered alarm. Something far beyond normal was emerging. Suddenly, a terrifying horde of massive beasts burst from the forest, charging forward with fury. The teacher shouted in panic, realizing it wasn't a normal encounter, it was a stampede. Chaos erupted among the students as they scrambled for safety, while a strange presence was sensed nearby, standing firm. Alba clenched his fists. The real event had begun. A massive stampede of magical beasts surged toward the academy. With the battle event underway, orders were issued to evacuate. Tension spread as the forest trembled under the beasts' advance. Leading the charge were fierce monsters, each one more menacing than the last, roaring and charging without restraint. Amidst confusion, the protagonist stood his ground. His role in this battle would shape his connection with the heroines. Yet, he knew the danger getting closer to them only brought him closer to his doom. Faced with a difficult decision, he reflected on the path that lay ahead as the heroines' voices echoed in his mind. His plan became clear: follow the original villain's example and disengage from the unfolding chaos, without hesitation, rather than fight. He turned his back on the battlefield, sprinting toward safety, while others called out in shock. Students fled through the forest, unaware of the danger creeping closer. A monstrous beast suddenly ambushed them, cutting off their escape. As the beast lunged, Celia cried out for Alba, unable to find him among the chaos. Suddenly, a blinding surge of power erupted. He reappeared, unleashing a devastating attack to protect them all. Relief spread across Celia's face as she saw him standing tall, no longer running away. He urged her to escape, but the wounded needed help, and Celia stepped forward without hesitation. Though afraid, she chose to stay, channeling her healing magic to save a fallen ally. Celia looked up at Alba, her voice steady as she pleaded for him to protect everyone in her place. Her faith in him was unwavering, sparking something deeper within his resolve. Forget logic, he clenched his fist, pushing aside thoughts of death flags and fate. Smiling at his own hesitation, he vowed to act not out of fear, but for those who believed in him. Elsewhere, another heroine held her ground, fiercely battling a monstrous foe. Elena charged forward with precision, clashing fiercely against the insectoid creature without hesitation. While shielding her allies, she unleashed a powerful blast, forcing the others to retreat from danger. Alba soon reached her side, concerned but impressed by her strength and determination. With a warm smile, he acknowledged her capabilities, offering trust rather than orders. After entrusting the area to Elena, he turned away, preparing to dive deeper into the forest's peril. The key to ending the event lay in the forest's depths. Defeat the boss, and everything would cease. Alba carved his way forward, obliterating monsters as he pushed deeper toward the objective. Yet unease crept in. Something about the beasts didn't align with his memories. The event should have only featured weak enemies, and a comical boss named Pip Sharanam. Instead, the forest teemed with mid-game monsters, far beyond the intended difficulty. Alba began to question if his changed behavior was affecting the flow of the scenario itself. Instead of the original weak boss, he now stood before a massive three-headed chimera, an enemy from far later in the game. With a sharp glare, he confirmed the situation. This boss had no place in a tutorial. From behind the beast, a girl recognized him and called out in desperation. Her name was Alice, and though she introduced herself cheerfully, she was clearly in danger. Alice, revealed to be one of the heroines and Yuris's childhood friend, had been caught by the chimera while lost, unable to ignore her plight. Alba rushed in, determined not to abandon anyone. He struck with full force, unleashing a devastating attack aimed directly at the beast's head. The chimera staggered but stood firm, barely budging under the blow. To Alba's shock, his strike had failed. It didn't even leave a scratch. Alice shouted a critical warning. Chimera's weakness wasn't fixed, it shifted over time. A visual breakdown confirmed it. The creature alternated between being weak to physical or magic attacks, depending on its phase. Realization struck Alba. His current attacks were ineffective because the chimera resisted magic now. In the game, success required teamwork. Celia's spells and Elena's sword played key roles. Without delay, Alba launched in again, adjusting his strategy mid-air. Alba formed a quick plan. He'd close the gap with magic and land a physical blow. With momentum behind him, he launched a fierce punch straight into the chimera's face. The impact landed, but the beast barely flinched. The attack failed to do real damage. In retaliation, the chimera unleashed a devastating strike, forcing Alba to defend under pressure. Frustrated and unarmed, he realized brute strength alone wouldn't be enough to win. As Alice cried out, the snake head of the chimera coiled around her, dragging her into its crushing grip. Before it could finish, a sudden slash tore through the coils, severing the threat in an instant. Alba froze as the chimera recoiled, clearly struck by a new presence on the battlefield. Emerging from the dust, Yuris stood tall, cradling Alice protectively in his arms. Their reunion was quiet, but heartfelt. She had trusted he would come, and he hadn't failed her. Yuris faced the chimera head-on, instructing Alice to stay back, as the beast roared in challenge. Without hesitation, he charged, driving his blade toward the monster's core. His calm demeanor broke beneath his words. Lay fury for those who harm someone dear. Just as his sword struck, the creature retaliated, deflecting the blow. Alba watched, impressed, yet alert. Alice warned him the chimera had already shifted phases, altering its weakness once again. Yuris realized physical strikes were useless. Now the chimera had entered its magic vulnerable phase. Alba seized the moment, unleashing a massive burst of lightning magic directly into the beast. The twin heads roared in pain, reeling from the force of the impact. Yuris kept the pressure on, holding the chimera's attention and buying time for another strike. Despite their rivalry, he acknowledged Alba's strength. Teaming up was their best shot at survival. They finally stood side by side, setting aside tension to finish the battle quickly. Alba and Yuris confront a massive chimera beast blocking the mountain path, its growls shaking the ground. Without hesitation, Alba takes command, and Yuris prepares to fight by his side, trusting his judgment. They both charge forward at full speed, magic and steel flaring as they close in on the beast. Yuris attacks with a magical blast, striking the chimera's face, forcing it to roar in pain. In a synchronized strike, Alba slashes while Yuris leaps from above, delivering a powerful final blow. Charging together, Alba and Yuris coordinate a follow-up attack, while a girl watches from the battlefield. Smiling calmly, she comments on the beast's misfortune for facing such a formidable team. Even when the creature deflects Alba's spell, Yuris's blade breaks through with relentless strength. Conversely, when it counters Yuris's sword, Alba's magic pierces through from another angle. Together, their unbreakable synergy overwhelms all opposition, earning the girl's admiration. With his sword raised high, Yuris stood victorious amid the fading storm of their battle. Alba, calm and confident, displayed the magical prowess that transformed him into living lightning. Electric energy burst outward as Alba landed a crushing blow against the massive beast. Meanwhile, Yuris's sharp instincts and unmatched swordsmanship proved he was no less formidable. Their combined strength earned gratitude from allies, who celebrated the safe rescue of Ares. Curious, the boy asks how Alba knew his name, prompting light-hearted explanations from the others. They reminisce about growing up in the same village, where Yuris earned the title of strongest. Relieved, the boy expresses how glad he is that everything ended safely. He then explains that Ares is like a younger sister to him, nothing more. Disappointed, the girl quietly reacts, hiding her feelings behind a faint smile and teasing remark. The group prepared to part ways, each returning to their assigned squads after the battle. Despite their offer to walk together, Alba firmly refused, blaming their presence for his misfortunes. With a sincere smile, the boy expressed his gratitude, promising to never forget Alba's help. Their silhouettes faded into the distance, bound by a fate that cast them as future enemies, left behind. Alba muttered wistfully, wishing Yuris had been a little easier to hate. Left alone near the fallen beast, Alba stood in silence, scratching his head in thought. His senses flared something or someone was nearby, hidden just out of sight. Pointing toward the tree, he spoke plainly, certain the presence had observed the fight. Though the figure remained unseen, he considered the possibility of concealment magic. Activating his lightning form, Alba revealed he could still sense their presence through the air. With narrowed eyes, Alba demanded the hidden figure to reveal themselves without delay. A shimmer of magic broke apart, and to his surprise, a girl appeared from thin air. She introduced herself as Lily, calmly declaring she was one of the main heroines. Alba reacted with frustration, realizing his name was widely known due to a past duel. Lily explained she had only been observing, arriving during the heat of their earlier battle. Revealed she'd only heard rumors from her teacher. Alba's power was a rare type of advanced magic. He misunderstood her gesture, thinking she referred to the slain chimera, which lay still nearby. Suddenly, the chimera's body began dissolving into glowing fragments, leaving no trace behind. Shocked, both watched in disbelief as the beast vanished completely into the air. Calmly, Lily explained it had been a magical construct from another dimension, its form unsustainable, without mana. Alba stared in confusion as Lily's explanation flew over his head. The basics of firemaking were illustrated tools creating heat by friction, but the rules of their world didn't allow such effects to occur naturally via magic. Lily elaborated that magic required harmony with nature. With a diagram, she explained that magic didn't create real fire, it replicated it from another world through interference. Realization struck Alba. Both his lightning powers and the chimera they'd faced were projections drawn from a separate dimension's reality. An unknown sorcerer had used magic to replicate a chimera from another world. Because it was only a magical construct, it vanished once the sustaining mana was exhausted. Realizing this, Alba suspected someone powerful was behind the summoning, someone targeting them intentionally, elsewhere. Two mysterious figures discussed the event, impressed that a student had defeated the chimera. They acknowledged the strength of the academy, calling it one of the three great powers beside the royal family and the church. The two cloaked women stood atop a cliff, one admitting her magic couldn't function without mana. Down below, Alba declared they would retreat for now, certain the enemy would return another day. Dominant sorceress laughed off the failure, blaming her unsuitability for teamwork and leaving the rest to her companion. Reflecting on the situation, Alba realized the story was no longer following the game's expected path. He questioned whether the beast-summoning magician was linked to the doom flags tied to his fate. Looking to the distant cliffs, Alba firmly declared he would show no mercy to those who stood against him. With the chimera gone, he assumed the forest was safe and suggested returning. But Lily interrupted with a question. Alba admitted he was self-taught, never having learned magic from anyone else. Surprised by his answer, Lily found it amusing and intriguing. With a soft smile, she confessed that he had sparked her interest. As Lily walked away, Alba suddenly remembered why this event was key to deepening their bond. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the academy, Celia worked alongside Alba during rescue missions, learning the beast had vanished. Irena fought bravely with her team, confirming that the creature was only a magical replica. Aris and Yuris realized it had all been someone's spell and protected others from the threat. Now, Alba's goal was clear: he needed to display his power to Lily and gain her interest. Alba panicked as he realized he had triggered doom flags with every main heroine he met. Still, the students celebrated together, unaware of the looming danger that remained unresolved. Watching them reunite joyfully, Alba felt relieved that no one had been seriously hurt. Far away, the academy's headmaster received a report on the incident and began piecing together the enemy's possible intent. In the shadows, the mysterious sorceress and her followers prepared their next move against the academy. The mysterious woman watched with a confident smile, her plan quietly unfolding from the shadows. Meanwhile, Alba stood firm with his allies, prepared to protect the academy and confront whatever threat came next. Strange activity was reported deep in the forest, where a magical beast's disturbance broke the region's calm. The dense trees hid something unusual. A knight commander arrived with his unit, issuing orders to search the entire forest thoroughly. The mission was treated with urgency. Among the knights, one man focused intently. He speculated that their target might be a first-year student, raising concern. Elsewhere, students gathered after field training. Their instructor confirmed they'd lodge there for the night. They approached a magical inn, unaware that danger loomed beyond the peaceful surroundings. After arriving, the students casually discussed the academy's bold choice to turn serious incidents into part of their curriculum. Curiosity stirred among them. Some believed the beast attack was part of a simulated lesson, though a few admitted it had felt genuinely frightening. One of the older students reasoned that the academy likely chose to keep the truth hidden to prevent unnecessary panic. Elsewhere, a few upperclassmen quietly speculated that someone among the students might have experienced something unusual, just as they once had. Though confusion lingered, the girl promised to explain everything, easing the tension before they entered the inn. Inside the inn, one boy rolled around on the tatami floor, embracing the traditional feel while his friends watched and laughed at his antics. Delighted by the blend of Japanese and Western elements, he praised the world's flexibility and attention to detail. As hunger set in, another student reminded the group that dinner would follow their time in the bath. Suddenly, a game-like interface appeared, prompting a decision to peek or not to peek at the girl's bath. Although tempting, such an act would drastically reduce affection levels, ending any romantic possibilities with the heroines. Alba hesitated as he weighed a hidden game option. Choosing it could cost him trust, but perhaps it could also break free from his destruction flag. While he deliberated, the girls enjoyed their time in the hot spring, unaware they were being observed in someone's mind or possibly reality. Their peaceful conversation turned to Alba's past engagement with Irena. Questions about his current feelings lingered in the steamy air. Meanwhile, Alba stood confidently among the boys in the men's bath, pretending nothing was amiss. Deep down, he insisted his motives were noble, all to avoid a doomed fate. In the middle of the bathhouse, Alba was startled when another boy caught him standing blankly, drawing unexpected attention. Trying to play it off, Alba muttered excuses, but his friend teased him with a knowing smirk and praised his timing. That night, under the crescent moon, soft words of gratitude were shared about Alba's help during a past crisis. As they soaked together, one girl questioned another about her feelings toward Alba, hinting at a growing interest. Both girls quietly admitted admiration for him, praising his strength and kindness, though neither fully understood their own emotions. A lively girl stepped out of the bath, cheerfully announcing that Alba had saved her too. The others turned to her in surprise. She introduced herself as Persia, from the Holy Wolf group, while the others shared their names and relaxed in the spring's warmth, under the moonlit sky. Persia recalled how Alba had saved her from a chimera. The others quietly agreed on his strength and bravery. However, concern returned as they discussed how someone had used artificial beasts to target students. Fear lingered in their thoughts. Suddenly, Persia lunged at one girl playfully, causing laughter and startled screams to echo through the bathhouse. While the girls continued teasing and bonding, one of them made a bold comment, leading to a comically intense reaction from the others. Suddenly, Alba was flung into the air, an electric jolt running through him as loud crashing noises erupted nearby, alarming everyone. To their shock, he crash-landed into the girls' bath area. All three screamed in unison, scandalized by his sudden and awkward arrival. A furious staff member launched a barrel straight at Alba, labeling him a shameless intruder as he wailed in protest. Back in the men's bath, Alba's friend sighed, acknowledging Alba's intentions but reminded him that peeking still had consequences. After Alba's electric mishap, he floated dazed in the hot spring, while the other boys lay shocked from the aftershock. Staring at the sky, Alba wondered if the chaotic series of events could at least count as a successful event. Later, Persia bowed her head in apology. Her antics had triggered the chain reaction, and she admitted it with a sheepish laugh. The group gathered in yukata, exchanging apologies and laughter over the commotion. Alba still looked slightly annoyed. As teasing resumed, the mood lightened, though Alba's embarrassment lingered. Affection scores may have dropped, but so did everyone's guard. Yuris and Persia explained that their village revered the goddess of fate, and from childhood, they were taught to respect the saint. That respect, however, didn't stop Alice from grabbing the saint's chest earlier, prompting embarrassed reactions from the group. Formally introduced himself as Alice's childhood friend, while the girls returned the gesture, giving their names and smiling politely. Encouraged by their friendliness, Yuris asked everyone to treat him casually as a peer, not with honorifics or formality. While the group laughed together, Alba stood silently to the side, watching the bonds forming around him grow deeper. As dinner time approached, Alba announced he'd head out first. The others cheerfully followed soon after. Though he kept a straight face, Alba admitted to himself just a little that he felt jealous of Yuris. A spread of delicious dishes awaited the group, filling the air with warmth and anticipation. Everyone began eating together. Alba devoured his food with enthusiasm, while the girls enjoyed the meal with delighted expressions. Midway through, Alba asked if anyone had seen Mina, a first-year student. Their silence suggested something was amiss. Alba and the others noticed Irena's tense expression when asked. She quietly revealed that Mina's parents, heads of the Rupika family, were in danger. Without hesitation, she added the devastating news: Mina's parents had been murdered. The atmosphere grew heavy with silence. Far from the others, Mina collapsed beside her bed, overwhelmed by grief. Her childhood treasures surrounded her, untouched. A family photo rested on her table. Staring at it through tears, She couldn't comprehend why such tragedy struck her home. Clutching the edge of the desk, Mina cried out, her voice trembling, begging for someone, anyone to help. Under the night sky, Mina's desperate plea echoed, asking someone to save her. Back at the inn, Irena informed the group that the culprit behind Mina's parents' murder was still at large. Alba remained silent, his face heavy with concern. He reflected on Mina's role. As a minor side character, her situation shouldn't impact his fate, but uncertainty lingered. Sitting together, the group solemnly hoped they could offer her support in some way. One girl softly spoke, reminding them that grief was too painful to bear alone, and no one should have to endure it in silence. The group reflected on Sheria's calm expression, shaped by years of witnessing loss. Her words carried quiet strength. Alba made a decision. Regardless of his fate or flags, he would help Mina as a friend, not for the game. With unwavering resolve, Alba sat upright. He promised himself he would become someone Mina could rely on. Alba started his morning with a loud yawn, clearly unconcerned about his surroundings. Despite being in class, Alba drifted into his own world, earning a firm magical warning from the teacher. The spell hit him cleanly, snapping him back to reality. A month passed since the last field training. It was now June, and their academy life remained peaceful. The school followed a year-long seasonal system, shifting from spring to winter in a structured rhythm. Over 3 years, students aged 16 to 18 honed their skills, freely choosing events to level up through study and training. Many paths awaited students of the academy: adventurers, scholars, merchants, or heroes uncovering ancient secrets. New heroines arrived, cheerful and charismatic. Alba watched them from a distance, knowing their roles were key to the story's progression. Despite their presence, Alba had no intention of pursuing any of the game's common endings. He remained firmly detached. He understood his fate. No matter what route unfolded, he would eventually become the villain in the hero's journey. Alba knew how the story always ended, with the villain falling after threatening the heroine. He stood silently, rejecting that destiny. Yuris suddenly called out to Alba, surprising him as he stood idly in the hallway. With the heroines watching, Yuris casually approached, asking why Alba was loitering around, instead of engaging in activities like the others. The girls praised Yuris, highlighting his top performance in the combat test. Alba observed in silence, expression unreadable, playfully joked about their weaknesses while admiring Yuris. Alba remained distant, separate from their cheerful circle. Alba smiled faintly, then turned away. He excused himself with a careless remark, hiding his unease, as he walked off alone. As Alba walked away, the group speculated if they had upset him with too much praise for Yuris. Hearing whispers of jealousy, Alba paused. The thought left him puzzled. Had he really been envious? Elena dismissed the idea with a sharp remark, calling jealousy childish, though her tone suggested something deeper. Curious, Celia turned to her friend and quietly asked if Alba's feelings might be more complicated than they assumed. Far from their conversation, Alba reminded himself of his goal to live a life that would never become the villain's path. To avoid entanglement with central characters, Alba returned to his old routine, napping under trees and keeping to himself. Unexpectedly, Mina appeared. She greeted him gently, and Alba responded with a rare, soft smile. Though a minor figure in this world, Mina offered familiarity. She invited him to eat lunch together without hesitation. They shared a meal under the sun, laughing easily. Her presence felt distant from destruction or fate. With Mina, Alba could speak freely, unburdened by roles or expectations. That simplicity brought him a sense of calm he rarely found elsewhere. Sitting beneath the trees, Alba gently acknowledged what he had heard about Mina's family, offering quiet support in return. Her eyes softened with gratitude as she thanked him. That simple exchange brought a warmth they both understood. Mina admitted she always felt more cheerful after speaking with him, her smile radiant and sincere. Suddenly, Celia appeared, recognizing both of them. She approached with an enthusiastic greeting. Without hesitation, she invited Mina to join them after class. Alba watched curiously as Mina blinked in surprise at the unexpected offer. With a bright smile, Celia suddenly suggested they all throw a party together. Her energy filled the air. Both Alba and Mina blinked in confusion, unsure what the occasion could be. A burst of confetti revealed the surprise. Everyone had gathered to celebrate Alba's birthday, shouting their cheerful congratulations caught off guard. Alba gave an awkward laugh. The event was overwhelming, but strangely heartwarming. As he looked back, Alba recalled entering his birth date during the game's setup. That simple input had triggered this event in the world's script. One by one, the girls offered heartfelt birthday wishes. For Alba, This was unfamiliar territory warmth from people who genuinely cared. They revealed that the 6th of June marked his birthday, a fact even he had forgotten since reincarnating into this world. Jokes flew around, teasing him for sulking earlier when no one had celebrated. He protested, flustered but clearly touched, despite the short notice. Everyone had worked together to make the party happen. Even Elena, while acting cold, had known all along. Introductions continued as Mina politely thanked them for the invitation. The others welcomed her warmly, blending two circles into one. Elena offered kind words to Mina, reassuring her that the Lucier family would always lend support. Mina nodded, touched by the warmth. Celia then stepped forward, formally reintroducing herself. The two girls exchanged polite greetings, closing the distance between their social circles. From the sidelines, Alba observed the friendly exchange, quietly realizing how easily his world had become filled with these main characters, despite his efforts. Suddenly, Celia called out to him with a cheerful voice, saying everything was ready. Alba turned, surprised. At the center stood a cake glowing with candles. Surrounding it were his friends, smiling, as they celebrated his 16th birthday with genuine joy. As the candles flickered, Alba made a wish. For once, he let himself hope that simple days like this could continue. Laughter erupted as Celia playfully smashed the cake into his face, leaving everyone, including Alba, laughing. Through the laughter, Alba smiled gently. In that moment, he wished only to keep living peacefully, without conflict or fate hanging overhead. As the gathering ended, the group said their goodbyes. Yuris, Elena, and Celia returned to the academy dorms. Mina prepared to leave as well, but Alba insisted on walking her home. After all, he said, it was the least he could do. Quietly insisted that Alba was kind to everyone, denying she had any special reason to be jealous. Yet her flustered tone said otherwise. As they stood outside, Alba suddenly turned to Celia and told her they were leaving. Mina was left momentarily confused. He explained with a grin that he couldn't let her walk home alone. He was her self-declared bodyguard now. During their walk, they learned Mina lived under the knight's protection, and Celia warmly invited her to visit their home any time. Mina was overwhelmed by their kindness. She tried to speak, her heart pounding, but her words caught in her throat as emotions stirred within. When they reached her gate, Mina said goodbye with a faint, hesitant smile. Whatever she'd wanted to say remained unspoken. As she waved from the entrance, Celia commented that it looked like Mina had tried to say something. He reassured her, saying Mina would talk when she was ready because they were friends. Celia softly echoed the sentiment. Darkness settled over the streets. To light their way, Alba cast a simple illumination spell, lighting up the path with a bright glow. Suddenly, a presence stirred nearby. Both froze as Alba raised his voice, demanding. The peaceful night had taken a sharp turn. Alba's expression turned sharp, his senses were on full alert. Celia called his name. Startled by the sudden shift in his demeanor, he scanned the area. Certain they were being watched, but whoever it was had vanished. Celia looked around, seeing no one. From a rooftop, a shadowed figure clicked their tongue in frustration, irritated that Alba had sensed their presence so quickly. The mysterious observer noted Alba's unusual awareness, remarking that even a mere student could detect the effects of their cloaking spell. With a twisted grin, the hooded figure muttered that soon, the magical energy needed to transform the girl would be complete. From a distant rooftop, the cloaked figure whispered that the time for god-slaying was nearly upon them. Unaware of the threat, Alba and his friends continued their lives at the academy, their days still filled with peace for now.